The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. So I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Tonight is August 28th, 2013. Tonight's guests, by the way, are impromptu, and I'm glad they're joining me today. I was hoping to actually get them on tonight instead of later in the week, because who knows, we might be bombing Syria later in the week. And I had promised to get them on again to discuss this, because I had them on Monday, and we were breaking down, well, we were hoping to get them into Syria, but I wanted to get into mind control with them first, and that's such a vast subject, we got kind of bogged down in the details. So I'm glad to welcome back to the broadcast tonight Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to talk to you again, Popeye.
So
we're just
I know you guys are like a hot commodity here, apparently, at the
I don't know that I would go that far, but I think we're definitely fired up today, and we can't
More
believe
like we
what's
just
going
hang out
on.
in our house shorts on Skype.
Yeah, we just sit around in sleep pants on Skype talking about the news all day.
It's been a crazy day. I've been running around taking care of things, and I haven't gotten a chance to really pay attention to the news or anything, because I've been away from the studio all day. And I got in about 2.5 hours ago, and I've been going through the news, and I found a piece of audio which I was telling you guys about earlier, and I really just listening to the talk shows. I scanned through all the stuff. I have XM for about another 2 or 3 days before they turn it off in my car, because I got a free subscription to it, and it's about to get shut off. But because I won't pay for it. But I was listening to some of the talk shows on there, and some of the AM and FM talk shows, and I just noticed that there's this insane push for war in Syria, and there's no dissenting opinion about it. It's just war, kill, death. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, we are back. Hopefully I shouldn't have any more.
Testing.
Yeah, right?
1, 2, 3.
No more technical issues with my Skype. But this happened last week, too. It kept...
Hey, Twitter's been down. Who knows what's going on the internet? Some magical cyber fairies out there turning off switches.
Oh, they blame that on Syria, too.
Who has the kill switch in this world?
Well, when you go around, their whole goal is they want to screw with the basic structure of the internet. That's what the kill switch basically does. You start screwing with the basic structure of it, guess what happens, right?
Wait, Assad has the keys to the kill switch?
Yeah, he's got them in Syria.
About that.
Yeah, Assad's got the keys to the kill switch.
Oh, yeah, that's That's right.
I forgot that it all is
I had 'em
all in
confused with
Syria.
someone else.
Everything is in Syria. I completely forgot. That's what the TV says. I always believe everything on TV.
Everything the TV says, I believe everything. Ugh. You know, well, that's like I was saying in the first short segment there. That it seems that there's no dissenting opinion about going to war in Syria. In fact, there's not even like news reporting anymore. It's just
Congress is on vacation,
but it's just blatant. Oh, isn't that convenient? It's just blatant propaganda, though. I mean,
I know. It's like, is Kim Kardashian pregnant again? I'm like, what? World War III might break out, and you're writing about whether or not Kim Kardashian got knocked up again. Congratulations on fail there. Wow.
And if they do bring up Syria in any form, it's not even like there's no journalistic integrity. It's just blatant like here's our copy from the White House. Okay, thank you. And they just read it. Right? There's not even like, well, should we go into Syria? Is it a good thing? Can we afford it? No one's asking, hey, can we afford it? Because cruise missiles, last time I checked, are about $1 million a pop, right? Somewhere around there, a little over $1 million.
Oh, can we afford it? Hey, I'll tell you what, the U.S. is about to hit the debt ceiling in October. The Treasury is frozen for like 100 days. They're not talking about any of that. They're on freaking vacation. Meanwhile, in Fukushima, they've raised the level alert to like a 3 now on a scale of 7. Was a 1. The ocean there is literally boiling now. It's literally boiling outside of Fukushima, where the cores are melting down now.
What?
Fukushima.
What's that? Is that a
Once upon a time,
destination spot?
Once upon a time, there were these magical Tesla weapons used by such a thing called HARP. And no, okay.
Look, the Federal Reserve Printing Press is actually physically stationed on the Titanic, but they don't care because they've got a helicopter on the launching pad up there.
Yeah, and the violins are just playing and playing and playing. I think they're all getting carpal tunnel from playing for so long.
Well, like arguing over these economic policies, that I saw a meme a while ago that said this. And it said, and I'm probably going to murder it here, but it's something along the lines of, arguing over these economic policies is like, arguing about the rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, the ship's going to sink. So stop arguing over, maybe we should put the deck chairs over here. Maybe we should stack them. Well, maybe we should lay them out so people can sit comfortably. The ship's effing sinking. How about we focus on the ship sinking, huh?
Hello.
Screw the deck chair.
There. Hello. It's like I just want to stand outside and scream. Like going out today, people, yesterday, we were at the grocery store, and people are just like, dude. It's like, what are you doing? Why is everyone just acting like everything's just hunky-dory and nothing even remotely out of place? Back in the day, lesser things would happen. You'd have people in the checkout lines having little conversations about, did you see on the news about such and such, whatever? Nothing. There's just an epic, pregnant silence. It's creepy.
And, well, the only thing that's talked about, like, if you turn on talk radio, right? Like I said, I have this free subscription to XM that's about to die. And it came with my car, and I refused to pay for it because there's really nothing on XM. There's no valuable anything on XM. Nothing anymore. It used to be a decent network, but... So... I'm sitting there and I'm going through the few talk stations that are on there, and nobody's really talking about Syria. And if they are, it's like, cheerleading for it. I turn on the local AM stations here, and I know what I'm going to get because it's all neoconish crap here. But it's the same thing, cheerleading for Syria, to invade Syria. We need to go in. Those poor people. How would you feel if that was done here? No, how would you feel? Maybe you should think about that for a second. That's actually a good question, but you're not asking it in the right context. How would you feel if somebody came in and invaded your country? Right? I mean, look what they did at Waco. Did they not kill civilians there? Do we not kill civilians?
Did they not gas them?
Yeah, did we not use weapons of war on civilians? Not enemy combatants, not troops from a foreign country invading, but civilians in a church, I may add. And we used tanks and special forces and fully automatic weapons against them.
There's video where they were shooting the people as they were coming out, mowing them down.
That's nice. But hey, that's not an act of war, right? But we should invade other people's countries for doing that. How about they poison us? How about the fluoride? How about that? How about injections? How about what they did to the troops with the DU? How about that? But that's not... How about what we did to Iraq? You want to talk about hypocrisy? You want to talk about... You cannot use chemical weapons. Fallujah? Fallujah. I'm sorry, I had that.
What about the fact that places in Africa have been begging us for forever, like Darfur, to please come help, please come intervene, do something.
Bahrain.
Crickets chirping, crickets chirping.
The people in Bahrain are like, help us, America, please help us. And, we're like...
Yeah, they blacked out their Arab Spring. They just want to use
Meanwhile, they roll in the Saudi military and police with a lot of it American-made equipment. They roll in and start beating the protesters, killing them, shooting them.
Yes,
that's our big naval base on Bahrain. In fact, we have a great readership there.
Oh, yeah. Like 10%. Like, we're really high up in the ranks on Bahrain on our website. We're like really high up in their country. We're like the 275th most popular website in the world.
We connect with the
Bahrain.
You better never go over to Saudi Arabia. They're not going to like you over there.
Apparently not. Apparently not.
Yeah, I don't think I've really been invited there.
Well, yesterday, the news came out that the Treasury gave Congress a debt ceiling deadline, and they've moved it up way faster than what they expected. And no one talked about that either. I didn't see that in the news until I had to go search for it.
You know what the debt ceiling is to me? Everybody's like, oh, debt ceiling, and I don't understand economics. Here, it's really simple. Your wife has a credit card limit of $5,000. She has a bad shopping habit, and she spends $20,000 a month on your credit card. Okay, and you cannot afford to pay that off. So she says, "My shopping habit, I need it. I can't stop. I need it." And you say, "Look, baby, I love you, but you need to tone that stuff down." And she just continues and says, "I'll divorce you. I'll leave you. I don't care." She uses every threat against you. Okay. And you do what you have to do. You go out and work 6 jobs just to pay that dumbass credit card bill. You beg the credit card company to keep giving you a higher limit. What you should do is take the credit card and snip that thing in half and put her or him, because sometimes it's the other way around, sometimes it's the guy, right? So it could be her or him. Put that spouse in their place. In this case, our spouse is the federal government, and they're spending too much. And they're also abusive, by the way.
They really are. They don't even buy me flowers the next day after they beat me up.
Oh, you mean you don't even get the obligatory, I love you, baby. I do it because
I'll never do it again. I do it because I love you. No,
exactly.
I don't even get that.
Just think of the powers that shouldn't be. If you want to anthropomorphize them, think of them as a faceless individual in a stained wife beater. You know, and all hairy and just nasty.
It's like on Cops.
Yeah, just covered in drool. That's what the powers that shouldn't be look like if you want to anthropomorphize them. For real.
Ew.
And we sit and we take. I mean, look what they're doing. The media, they're propaganda mouthpieces. Honestly, have you guys turned on Fox? I mean, they're drooling. I mean, they have Karl Rove on there salivating. We need to kill. We need to. It's like, Jesus. Carl, you're showing your inner
your
evil
demon is showing.
Jesus, yeah, your inner evil's leaking out of your mouth. Little demon on your upper lip there, dude. Jesus, seriously, it's out of hand. And then CNN's the same way. I mean, there's not even a debate on whether we should go in there. See, the CNN's laying out plans on how to go in. Well, we could do this, and they bring on what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's a General Sharkey or something like that. He's one of these warmongers, and he's paid to come on every time. We need to kill more brown people. Let's bomb them. I mean,
we have to be in a permanent war economy. These people have decided that the only way to keep this sinking ship afloat even a little bit longer, and they've been saying this since 1944, is to keep us in a permanent war economy. And the Cold War did that for a really long time. It facilitated that. But then, a lot of stuff happened and the walls came down and everything else went on, and it just kind of just broke up, and then people didn't buy into that anymore. So then what do we have? We have 9/11. So we can refresh that whole deal. Everyone's scared of a new threat that can't really, it's elusive, it's in the ether somewhere, and they can just be afraid perpetually, and you never know when it's going to get you, and here's the TSA groping your 3-year-old, and I mean, they really, that's what they've done. And so now they're going to use that the best way they can. And they know right now that, troop morale is at an all-time low. We have record numbers of troops committing suicide everywhere, DU everywhere, all this stuff going on. So they know they can't just go in there. They got to do some proxy crap like they've been doing with Libya and now Syria, what they're doing over in Egypt too. And That's what they're doing, basically. Because they know they can't just full on go in there. They have to have some crappy BS pretext. It's just stupid. It's sad. It's almost cartoonishly bad, too. Like, the amount of lying. Like, John Kerry up there in his speech, and he's just like every other 2 seconds. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, then you should check your morals. Oh, thank you, Mr. Kerry.
When you hear a Skull and Bones member say on public TV over a matter of major national policy that something is undeniable, you better know he's browbeating you over a perfect lie.
Exactly.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, he's standing there, and you could just see. You notice he didn't look at the camera half the time? Probably because he just didn't believe anything that he was saying. And he's like, I can't even look straight at the camera. This is such crap.
No, he didn't. And, no one's talking about, like, for example, people are like, no, our government could never do that. Just today, Iran has also announced that they're going to sue the U.S. government for the CIA's role in the 1953 coup that overthrew Mossadegh. Because all that declassified stuff came out like a week or something, or last 2 weeks ago. So on top of everything else, Iran has announced plans to sue our government for what they did. So the CIA did that in 1953, but they wouldn't do what they're doing now? Come on. Really? They've been doing this the whole time. That's all they do. We've been at war since forever. There's not a time since any of us here in this conversation have been alive that we have not been at war somewhere.
It's been known about the 53 coup for a while, but it's having this declassified now is kind of like getting let out of prison when you're 92 years old because they found some old DNA source and learned a new technology and realized you're not
Sorry
the murderer.
About that. Oops, we didn't mean to. Oh, yeah, we kind of did. Here's the documents. Well, still sorry, guys. Like, oops, sorry. We totally overdid that, yeah. Sorry.
Well, there's not even, at least in the past, you had some semblance.
I mean, that's full 60 years ago. So,
well, at least in the past, you had some semblance of trying to cover things up. You know, now you don't even have to wait 50 or 60 years later.
They obviously realize that. They think the people are too freaking stupid that no one is going to say anything. Everyone's just going to do whatever. They can pretty much. They have to. Doing this action in the way that it's being done and how you're not seeing any Congress people come back from their vacations, put down the fishing pole, and come back and say something about this is proof that these people think that the American populace is a bunch of driveling, sniveling, spineless sheep that will go along and sit around on their butts and do whatever they're told and do not care. They obviously think that about all of us. Obviously. They don't, So it's pretty sad. It's just a pretty sad.
We're chopped liver, and our Congress people work in a red light district. So whatever that tells you.
Well, actually, we'd be better off if the Congress people actually were red light district workers, because at least they'd be more honorable. I trust them more than I do the scumbags that are up there right now. You know what I mean? What's that old saying? What's that old saying? Washington's a rough place. It's full of rapists, criminals, pedophiles, thieves, murderers, and that's just on Capitol Hill. That's the old zinger.
That would require all of us to think of Feinstein as anything other than asexual, and I simply refuse to do so.
No thanks. Her and her congressional onesie can...
She's a mind raper.
They can go kick rocks. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. More truth, real information when we get back. Turn off CNN permanently. All right, we are back. Aaron Dykes, Melissa Melton, rocking the house with me.
We're like gallows humor mode at this point because we've been reading all the stuff, and it's hard to even keep up with it. But it's like, okay, so we're talking about attack in Syria. The UK's backing us. France is on there. The UK now is all shot down because I guess they at least had some kind of vote. The people there were like, no, we have no vote, of course, and our Congress people are all fishing and laying out on the beach in their onesies.
We should tell them you can stay there too. You're all fired.
Yeah, you're all.
You like being home and fishing?
Whores.
Cool. You like being home and fishing and hanging out with Joe Bob and all that? Good. Stay home, and we'll just say to the Congress do things.
Yeah, I would just say to the Congress people right now, if any of them happen to be listening, you guys, if this all goes down, it's all on you. All that blood, all that horrible suffering and human debasement, that is on you karmically because you did nothing. You spineless weasels. Okay? Anyway, apparently Syria has said now they're going to hit Tel Aviv. If Damascus is hit, Iran is saying they will also attack Israel, but they also have said they're going to attack us and possibly Europe, probably the UK or whatever. Saudi Arabia tried to get Putin to buy into that whole oil deal. Putin said no. Then he said, hey, this is not cool what you're doing. And then Saudi Arabia said, fine, we'll just send a bunch of Chechen rebels to your Olympics. So then Putin was like, fine, I'll just send out an urgent action memorandum to the armed forces of the Russian Federation. How do you like that, Saudi Arabia? Take that.
If you came into the movie late, I think we're in that scene where everyone shows up in the warehouse in a crime thriller and every character in the movie has a gun pointed at someone.
Yeah, it's like, what do they call it? A Mexican standoff?
That's exactly what it is.
Everybody's got a gun pointed at everybody, and everybody's going, drop the effing gun right now. No, you drop it. No, you drop it. No. That's exactly what's going on right now.
That is entirely what's happening. China has come in on here and said, we agree with Russia. They walked out of the whole UN meeting today and said, no, screw it, we're leaving. This is not a drill. This is ridiculous what you're doing. Goodbye. And they left. And Obama has just been continuously broadcasting that Thursday he's going to bomb Syria. The White House has just been continuously putting out information that Thursday's the day. It's really going on Thursday. Hey, by the way, in case anyone didn't hear, Thursday is when we're going to bomb stuff. Like, when you're that obvious about it, it's cartoonish. This is like the Bugs Bunny war.
Well, that's why I said there's not even a debate in the media. I mean, CNN doesn't come out and go, do we have the authority to do so? Can we afford to do this? Is this the right thing to do? Won't innocent civilians get killed? I mean, there's always collateral damage. How do we even know that the Assad regime actually did this, right? How do we know that the government in power there even did it?
TV said so.
Well, but there's none of that debate, Melissa. What do you hear
no
on TV?
debate.
You turn on CNN and they're like, well, we could strike here. We could strike here.
They're already planning it out.
That's what I'm saying.
Planning it out for people.
They're up there, and you notice, like, it takes time to put that stuff together, those graphics. It takes a little bit of time, and they have all this stuff already loaded into their, and it's already there. You think there's a little bit of pre-planning there?
Well, I mean, the other thing that really, I think, creeps me out is I only saw this in one place, and I can't remember exactly where. I'll have to go look for it on break or something, but only one outlet mentioned the fact that the same Al-Qaeda that did Benghazi are the same ones that are supposedly now the Syrian rebels that we're financially backing and are so great and wonderful. Only one place made that connection and brought up the fact that, oh, by the way, isn't that a little bit of a conflict
Maybe
of
today,
interest?
but a year and a half ago, London Telegraph and everybody ran how our CIA and our special op forces and those in Britain, maybe NATO, physically airlifted over the Libyan rebels, and when they landed, they became the Syrian rebels, and then they brought.
Well, I know they brought it up
again.
then, but it's relevant now, and only one place is bringing it up.
Exactly.
I'm like, what?
My wife was watching this thing. There's this propaganda piece from CNN International where and it's video of a gunfight, and with who you don't know who's fighting, but you see this young guy, and he's trying to get this woman that was shot in the street. And apparently she was an innocent civilian or whatever, but they call it. They're saying this is Sniper Alley, and Assad's government forces are just raining terror and shooting at innocent civilians. And then when you do a little research, you find out it's not Assad's forces that are the snipers; it's these militants that are running around sniping people. But hey, that would actually require you to actually do a wee bit of research and look into this stuff and actually not believe Fox News. And most people, unfortunately, are still going to believe they're not going to go dig deep enough to find this stuff because, I mean, the information like that is being blocked. Although public opinion on invading Syria or any type of military action in Syria is 9%. So, I mean, even the people that are asleep are tired of war. So they're going to, it just makes me wonder what they're going to try to push to what level to try to get people to do it, or if they're just going to say, screw you, we're going to do it no matter what. All right, I'm going to cut us off. Break coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. More when we come back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And I was about to actually segue to something, and Melissa had a good point to get to when the break snuck up on us. So what I was going to segue to is the possibilities of something being either A, allowed to happen here, or B, fomented. But you wouldn't even need to do that because there really are, like Iran has said that they have sleeper cells here in the United States. So say they have somebody that is a sleeper cell here, and the government probably more than likely already has a good idea who they are. And if they thought they were going to act, or if they thought that they could be activated, even if they're not sure, they would raid them. Well, what happens if that raid just wasn't allowed to happen? I mean, we've seen that kind of stuff before, have we not?
Yeah, I mean, the populace is asleep. I mean, not everyone, obviously, but the major amount of people here are completely asleep. They're watching their television sets. They're dutifully becoming slaves to this system through their mind control program, and they are completely asleep. And so you're still, even with that, though, like you said, they're tired. People are tired, and only 9% approve of anything. And so what you've got going on is a totally primed situation for them having to do something really horrible to get people on board with this agenda. I mean, really, that's what you've got. And we're sitting over here. I mean, we're not trying to live our lives in fear. You can't live your life in fear. Obviously, that's what these people want from everyone here, so that we'll be complicit and go along with this. But at the same time, we've been studying this stuff for a long time. This is what we do. And like at the beginning of this month, when that whole Austin terror attack threat alert, force protection alert went out, it got leaked through the Texas military forces. We have sources that say that was actually a pretty high up person who leaked that, and it wasn't just some, mailroom clerk or whatever. And so they had a backup day on there. That backup day just happens to be tomorrow, which is the same day that Obama is saying they were talking about bombing Syria. They've mentioned over and over. And this threat was pretty freaking specific. It's for it being such a low level, as they said in the media. It had 4 specific locations throughout town. It's a pretty decent deal. And I mean, it's not like we have borders. Like we're living in Texas. I mean, we don't have a secure border or anything. I mean,
well, the bottom line is the warning actually corresponded with a Homeland Security drill that was taking place during the same time frame,
which they also weren't going to tell people about,
which has been ongoing for 2-3 weeks. But they called out specific terror places and dates, as she mentioned. And the backup date happens to be tomorrow, when we're supposed to be bombing Syria. So I find that very significant. Even if nothing at all happens on either side of the ocean, I hope nothing does happen, obviously. But if it does, let it go on the record. Let it be remembered that was the backup
They were
date.
talking about doing this a couple of weeks ago. So if anything happens tomorrow, it definitely does.
Suggest foreknowledge.
You mean the government would actually allow something to possibly happen? I'm shocked.
Dun,
yes,
dun, dun.
Completely shocked.
Yeah, I know. I'm being sarcastic when I say that, because it's like, this stuff just... You think by now people would see it.
You would think, but the stuff that they're using to brainwash people with I think people don't get when I say brainwashing with the television. Like, they think that maybe someone just watches a lot of TV and they go numb after a while, and so they believe it. No, I mean, they are literally using technology through our media in the television to brainwash people into a slumber. Literally. A concerted effort to brainwash people. And I don't care if that makes me sound crazy. I have so much evidence to prove it that it's ridiculous.
Well, don't you have an audio clip from when you guys talked to Catherine Austin Fitz earlier today?
We do have that clip. Do we have that ready to play it?
I think it's ready or readyable. Let me do a double check.
Ready-ish.
How long is it?
It's 2.5 minutes.
Oh, okay. We got plenty of time. Go ahead, play it.
You can cut into it if you want.
No, I don't want to cut into it. I want you to play the whole
thing.
It.
Well, I mean, just to set it up, again, you may have heard some of the stories. She's told aspects of this story before, but she went further than I've personally heard it. And I used to subscribe to her website, and I've heard quite a few of her talks. Again, she's formerly the Assistant Housing and Urban Development Secretary under George W. Bush. Prior to that, she was a top executive on Wall Street. She's one of these people who reads the books, knows the financial dirt, and knows a tremendous about and has spoken out against, the drug trading, the laundering, and really how it's all interconnected. Now, she says she accidentally overheard a conversation she was not authorized to hear from some of her Wall Street colleagues. I don't know that they were friends, whatever, but they were talking about the launch of some pretty serious mind control type technology through the television circa 1984.
Well, I was on Wall Street, and I overheard a conversation in 1984 that I wasn't supposed to overhear about what I would now refer to as entrainment technology and subliminal programming. that was going to be introduced on television. And when I tell you, it scared me to death. And I went home, and that was the last day that I had a television set. At the time I was married, and my husband wouldn't let me throw it out. And then when we were separated, boing, there went the television. And I haven't had one since. I had a decorator once, but I have one when I worked in the Bush administration. And the day I left the Bush administration, I gave it away. And I'll tell you a very interesting thing. I once did 1 year in, it was about 2002. I spoke in Sweden, I spoke in New Zealand, I spoke in America in about 10 different places. And in each audience, I asked the audience, how many people here watch TV? And no matter where I was throughout the globe, less than 10% of my audience watch TV. And what I realized is, that's my audience, people who don't watch TV, so they are interested and capable of knowing what's really going on because they're not getting that chemical injection from the tapeworm. And unfortunately, it's not just on the TV, it's also now in the cell phone system. It's also coming through the internet, TV and radio, so you have to be very careful. I had a great concern because I deal a lot, or have dealt a lot in my life, with trying to prevent financial fraud and trying to help people not be a victim of financial fraud. And one of my greatest concerns is we're now experiencing entrainment technology and subliminal programming being used to influence people's investment and financial transaction decisions. And I think this is of great concern to me. And it was, we did on the Solera report, we did a big special on entrainment technology and subliminal programming, particularly as it's used in manipulating your financial decisions. So it's so important that people understand that you're dealing with media that is compromised in a variety of ways. And if you're conscious of that, then you're much more immune to the manipulation.
So specifically that it is compromised in a number of ways. The media is compromised in a number of ways, and knowing about it gives you at least a partial immunity. But notice she talks about those who are interested and capable of talking about real events, about what's really going on, who are not engaged in the TV while she names specific technology. What is it? This open-ended rhetorical question, answer it specifically if you want. What is it about those parts in the Bible, because they happen repeatedly in the New Testament, about those with eyes to see, ears to hear? It's almost suggestive of the they live themes. What is it about those who have eyes to see and ears to hear? Obviously, it refers to those who are tapped in spiritually to something, but wow. I'm sorry, there's a lot in that clip.
No,
I haven't watched. The only time I watched TV is maybe if I go hang out and I'll chill with my wife for a little bit, and like if she makes dinner, I'll sit with her. And she doesn't. We don't have cable, and I mean now they can do it through the internet, like she said. But I at least turned the cable signal off, so her options
internet,
are,
cell phones, radio. I mean, wow.
Well, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get away from it? That's the thing.
That's the question.
You got to wonder
I mean,
if their signal comes through with the flicker rate and everything on the TV. Okay, you turn that off. How does it come through in the computer monitor? Well, computer monitors have a flicker rate too. You just don't see it. Okay, how does it come through on? And even if it's not, even if there isn't a flicker rate that a camera picks up, it's still flashing. You just don't see it. It's happening, at such a pace, but your subconscious does. But how does it? What's interesting, internet radio and broadcasting, it's like, that would have to be a carrier signal, something hiding along inside the signal there to, put out whatever. Lord knows what's coming through the FM frequencies, but I mean, that's interesting.
For real. No, I mean, and what's really, I mean, that to me plays into what we're seeing today when you turn on the news and they're like, well, this is how we could bomb Syria. Here's the whole plan. We've laid it all out. It's like, wow, really? No one's going to get up there and say, hey, and by the way, this is kind of wrong. Let's discuss it first, even? Nothing?
Well, so but how many
in
people
public and no one acts like even anything's going on.
How many people do you know that are for it? And people that are smart. And you're like, dude, where's your own opinion on this? And they don't have one. They're like, yeah, we should bomb them.
I don't know how many apartments you lived in. I've lived in them continuously since I left, leaving with my parents, leaving high school for college. And nearly every of them, maybe one or two didn't, force you to have cable. It's part of the package deal. The cost is built in with the rent. And you get that cable signal
whether
right
you
there.
want it or not.
Yeah.
They didn't force me to have it here.
And I got to the point where I wouldn't even hook up the cable because I didn't like being sucked in to really what was boring programming, but also what I knew was dangerous. But, I mean, it should just tell you something that they're clearly forcing it on people.
Entrainment. I mean, that's crazy. That's in 1984. So that's however many. That's a while ago. That's like 20. What?
Let's
30
talk
years
about
ago,
the
almost?
year 1984. Just by the way. And I think
yes, let's talk about that year.
I think you can take some of this up too, Popeye. But 1984, of course, symbolically the date set by George Orwell, who was disaffected with the Fabian Society, those long-term, strategic, Fabian, incremental implementers of collectivist socialism for the benefit of oligarchy. And they were founded in 1884, technically late 1883, but symbolically 1884, marking the 100 years of their reign. So already a symbolic date, but the year before 1984, a really significant movie came out in my eye, a movie that's more than a movie, and that's Videodrome, very, very creepy, but directly calls out the TV as a mass mind control instrument, directly talks about the battle for the mind of North America in the coming years will be through the television, and that comes in the wake of the leaked documents from Aquino, who I know you've researched and know all about, his mind war documents through what the Air Force or whatever branch of the military services.
I think he was Army Special Ops.
In Mind War, they declare a PSYOP war upon the entire global population and specifically the people of the United States and North America, and says he doesn't care if you're a friend, foe, or neutral, as long as you fear the system and basically acknowledge that it's going to win. And it's going to be a propaganda that falls upon ally, friend, and enemy alike. And I think we've seen it.
And part of it is turning people ambivalent, and part of it is turning people violent. I mean, it's really
Those documents were leaked in 1980 was the timeline I was trying to say.
And listen to what the one phrase you hear people saying all the time. I'm just one person. I'm powerless. What could I do? They're the government. They're all powerful. They control everything. There's nothing I could do anyway. I might as well just go along to get along. Gee, wonder why you have those thoughts. Are those thoughts even your own? Probably not.
That's it, Popeye. And we also separately recently analyzed the NASA Future of War documents. Came out, 2 months before 9/11. It was kind of circulating on the internet recently. We looked into it. Looks totally legit to me. It's a real guy at NASA. And they talk a lot about the new theaters of war, all the robotics and nano stuff that's super creepy, but a lot about the CNN effect. Bringing people terror, live kidnappings, hostage situations,
the murder of Americans
perception
live
of violence
on TV.
Yeah.
And that was 2 months before 9/11.
But at the same time, they pretty much indicated, don't recall the exact wording, that they want to use the perception that they're all omnipresent, that their forces could drop out of the sky at any time and take you out.
That's pretty much the way that they've got people thinking. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. Epic conversation. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back. No, video games and TV don't mold you. They don't prepare children to shoot. Look,
they don't have video games that are funded by the Army.
Are you challenging us to a quote-a-thon?
Right. Look, I can tell you right now, flat out, I'm a former gamer. I mean, I still game a little bit here and there once in a while.
I am too. I admit it.
Well, I mean, I don't have time anymore, so it's like I have to blow the dust off the thing if I ever do use it. I only use it to de-stress. But I can tell you that I remember Pong. Okay, I'm old enough to remember when Pong first came out. And I remember all the original games, the first Atari and, Intellivision and all these old, really super old video games. And that stuff back in the day compared to the stuff now, and I'm not talking about the graphics, but the content. I mean, yeah, they had a World War II game for Intellivision back when I was like 9 years old. Okay, in fact, they had a little thing. It was one of the first speaking games ever created. But you were shooting down the silhouette of an airplane. Okay, that's it. You were shooting down silhouettes of airplanes. That is it. You were fighting you were the door gunner or the tail gunner on a B-17 bomber. You weren't sneaking up on somebody and slicing their throat and getting 100 extra experience points because you knifed the guy in the face 15 times. Woohoo! And then they wonder why these young kids go out and they do it to their friend in real life, except their friend doesn't hit reset and come back because in real life, dead is dead.
Yeah.
But I've been told there's no correlation. I'm like, okay. Okay, right. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have these games, and the number of kids stabbing their friends in the face or shooting their friends and stuff like that, or doing stupid things like that, was much lower. You introduced a stimuli like the video game and violent movies. Well, when I was a kid, I remember that they wouldn't show certain things on TV until after 10 o'clock at night. Remember those days?
Not really, but yeah, kind of.
Not really, but
do you guys remember?
I get the concept.
When you were a kid, they didn't turn the TV programming off after like 11 o'clock at night. They used to put the American flag on TV from I think it was like midnight until.
Oh yeah, they
7
did
a.m.
do that. They did do that. I remember that because I used to stay up late and watch Saturday Night Live back in the day.
Yeah, there was nothing to do after midnight, and there was like nothing to distract you. And if you couldn't sleep, then that was when you snuck out of the house and went and got in trouble or did stupid things you weren't supposed to do.
Basically, that sounds about right.
Well, now you don't see anybody sneaking out of anything. You just see them glued to their televisions. Turn on a TV. Well, you guys shouldn't, but as an experiment, that to the listeners, turn on a television and just watch what happens to the person that's sitting in front of it. Literally, if as you're talking to them, try to have a conversation with them about something really important, like your bills, something that pick a topic they're into. And get right into the nitty-gritty where they're talking about something really passionate, and then turn on the television, just randomly. Turn it on in the same room. And let them pay it. And as you see that they start to pay attention to it, watch what happens to their brain in the conversation. Turns off. Literally, both of them.
I have this really great quote I could read right now before the end of the hour, if you want.
Go ahead.
This is from this book I've been reading. I keep telling everyone to get. It's called The Perfect Machine, Television and the Bomb, and it's all about how the nuclear bomb and the television came at the same time. By Joyce Nelson. But anyway, she calls the television the guardian of sleep. And it says, underneath the rose-colored tint is a nightmare, the nightmare of imprisoned modern society with its anti-people climate, its expanding war machine, its technological simulacra replacing human endeavor and involvement, its machine-like values and characteristics overtaking all others. As spectacle, television mirrors this nightmare, even in this nightmare, at the same time that it must guard the sleep of its mass audience, both contributing to and protecting the desire to sleep, that is, remain unconscious. Television spectacle needs its rose-colored tint, its hue of beneficent containment around harsh, messy reality, in order to perpetrate the larger nightmare unfolding beyond the screen. As TV spectacle has gotten better, reality itself has gotten worse. This is obvious not just in the wholesale pollution of our natural environment, the deterioration of community and cities, and the gradual poisoning of everything necessary for human survival, but in the supremacy of technological expansion over all else. As reality worsens, we have increasingly turned to the screen with its controlled and sweetened perfection. Isolated in our homes, separated from one another by this very screen, we fulfill our assigned role of consumption and spectatorship, while the dictates of a larger machine, far less sweet, proceed unimpeded.
And we're living in idiocracy.
Plus brain entrainment.
And we're living in idiocracy. We literally...
We are.
We live in there now. Everything that these guys talked about, everything that they talked about over the past 100 years, all these quotes, you could quote 15 or 20 different people, and everything that they talked about, go look at what they said, and it's almost like we're living in the world that they wanted to create.
I mean, we put up a video last night about the U.S. is going to bomb yet another country under a phony pretext. And then we put up another video at the same time. World War III could be busting out, but the media won't shut up about Miley Cyrus. The Miley Cyrus video has more than twice as many views as the video about we're going to go bomb another country.
Because you said Miley Cyrus's name in it, that's why.
Apparently. It was a social test.
I know.
It's pretty sad.
It's sad, but it's the truth. And even if people that are awake experience it too, like you have to, this is not something that like once you wake up that you're not susceptible to. That's why you have to be aware of what's going on. So if you catch yourself falling prey to it again here or there, you can pull yourself out. I'm going to cut us off because the break is sneaking up, but that's okay because it's only 59 short seconds. And then Aaron, Melissa, Snoring Dog, who's hanging out with me here in the studio tonight, and myself will be right back. So don't go anywhere. Hour 2 coming right up. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is August 28th, 2013. Hanging out with me for hour number 2 is Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton of Truth Stream Media. Make sure you listen to their broadcasts here 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday. You guys are on, what, 7 to 8?
7 to 8 Eastern, 6 to 7 Central.
Eastern Standard Time. Have you guys ever heard of John Oliver? You know who he is?
Negative.
Okay.
Is
He's the British comedian on The Daily Show.
That's what I was going to say. Is he the British guy off The Daily Show?
Yes. Now,
What do I win? What do I win?
Well, you win an audio clip. Interesting.
Okay.
It's only about a minute long, but I thought you guys might like this. It's a clip I have up on Federal Jack. I've put this up a couple of years ago. But this is John Oliver saying, flat out, if people get their news from The Daily Show, this country is in real trouble. Because he says, you'll hear him say, people tell me all the time that they get their news from The Daily Show rather than going to, looking up and actually doing any sorts of research for themselves. And he doesn't believe it, but it's the truth. The entertainment industry has become the news. And listen to what he says.
I feel like you're trying to set up like a comedic answer, and there isn't really one. My name is John Oliver, and I work for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Whenever tragic stories happen, the instinct isn't straight away to find something funny about them, because it's not really there. So I think really it's more looking perhaps at the coverage over the next few days, and when it's reported distastefully, that would be something that we would then look at. But there is not an instinct to straight away think, some awful thing has happened, how do we make this funny? It doesn't really work that way. I have no influence as a comedian. People do not watch The Daily Show for news. I realise that is something that people love to say, but that cannot be true. If it is true, this country is in real trouble. But it's not true. You would have to watch the news. You'd have to imbibe the news to be able to understand what we're talking about. So I think it's just that. When people say young people get their news from The Daily Show, not only is that a generalisation to the point that it's almost meaningless, I think it really comes from the fact that young people are getting their news from other sources than cable news.
Now, that's an interview he did with CNN. Now,
he's wrong.
Oh, of course he's wrong. I think he's either in denial or, he's got his head firmly implanted where the sun don't shine, because young people are getting their news. You heard him say, I get told all the time that people get their news.
I have heard that all the people. I used to just follow them on Tumblr back when I just had my little blog and before I did any of this as a job. And people devote their whole time to reposting Daily Show stuff, and they're like always saying, I'm so glad I only get my news from The Daily Show. I'm so glad I only watch the Colbert Report, because the regular news sucks. But even if you only got your news from CNN or Fox or MSNBC, then you would only be getting your news from the party line anyway. So, like today when we did our show, I had to read a lot of articles from other countries because
if you bring on Richard Haas as a guest on your broadcast, whether you're on Comedy Central, Fox News, or MSNBC, and you bring him on like he has some sort of relevance in reality, more than just a scumbag part of the dark New World Order, and you bring him on like I should pay attention to him, you lose all merit. I'm talking about the Colbert Report, because they've brought him on a few times. I'm going to pause us because the break is sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. 59 short seconds. We will be right back. So, tonight, as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, my attack on Syria hasn't been in defense of the Assad government. I will play a little piece of audio for you later on, before the end of the broadcast. But as you can see, my focus of attack has been on the media, because they're the ones selling you the war. I mean, obviously the war hawks are going to come out and we should bomb. Like, it doesn't surprise me that McCain and all them are out there. But what actually surprises me is that the media isn't even trying anymore. There's not even a semblance of pretending to be journalists anymore. Like, not even 5 minutes worth. You know what I'm saying? Like, before they would... And, by the way, I think this has to go with the fact that now they can produce propaganda here inside the United States. So they don't even have to worry. Now it's not illegal to do so, right? Technically. So they just do it. Now it went from, well, we kind of hid it and masqueraded it to it's right in your face, blatant propaganda.
It's just getting so obvious. I mean, it's cartoonishly, ridiculously obvious. It's almost like, and I don't know if it's just because I've been studying all this stuff for a long time or what, but now when I'm watching it, it's like worse than a bad movie or something, what's going on right now.
Well, that's what happens when you have the Hoffman sunglasses on. Once you grab the sunglasses from They Live and you start looking around, it's hard. It's like what did Roddy Piper say to the old lady that she starts talking into the watch? He's like, "Geez, lady, you look like your face fell back into the bean dip back in '57." Hey, I've got one that can see. That's what happens. You ever have that experience where you're out and you almost feel like people are talking to their watches? Not that they really are, but you're like, wow, I am like a lone fish inside of a fishbowl full of...
It is like that. It's like you just driving through Austin. There's, it's just businesses everywhere, and it's just like, oh wow, look at all this horrible esoteric symbolism that's meant to encapsulate us in a satanic control grid. Like, it's really hard not to see it that way. And then you go to the grocery store, and everyone's face is like buried in their smartphone. And no one's even talking to each other, or like the rare times that we will go out to eat. There's a couple places here that are still organic, and we'll go there, and there are whole tables of people, all of them not communicating with each other because they're all in a phone. And so, and then go ahead and put on top of that the fact that they're putting brainwashing entrainment and subliminal stuff into the television, into the broadcasts that are coming through on these phones, into the media. On top of the fact that, yeah, most of these people are getting their freaking news from shows like Jon Stewart. And, yeah, there you go. I mean, it's like this meme that I saw today on Facebook. It had a picture of Ron Paul, and it said, let me see if I have this right. We're attacking Syria because Syria attacked Syria. Explain this shit. It's like it's a bad joke. And it's not a joke because people are going to die. A lot of people could die. But it's under the pretext of something. It's like these people are straining so hard to find any type of validity or legitimacy. It's sad.
Well, Jon Stewart, I was in political science class discussing the media, and half the class raised their hand and said that's where they get their news. That was way back before the Iraq War, and I did share Jon Stewart's jokes quite a bit during the Bush era because Bush was such a klutz, but obviously I knew it went so much further than that. I really lost my charm for the guy, but a lot of people may not know his brother. Well, first of all, Jon Stewart's birth name is John Stewart Leibowitz, so Stewart a stage name, nothing really wrong with that, but his brother is the New York Stock Exchange Euronext Chief Operating Officer, so pretty decently tied into the power structure. How do you think that affects his politics? His brother's the kind of guy that testifies in Washington.
Come on. What do you think that has anything to do with anything? You think they have conversations at like the family dinner table during like meals or stuff maybe? Or maybe on the phone? Or come on, stop it.
I just think there's a party going on in Washington, and it's a very small group, and we're not invited. We're never going to be invited.
What did George Carlin say? How did he say it? It's a very
big club. You're not invited, and that's the same club they beat your head over with.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Not as funny as him, but that's a great one.
You should have tried to do a voice when you did it.
And he's like, it's a big club.
I don't want to do any disrespect.
You're not in it. Yeah, he's. There's no comedians like him anymore either. You really don't see the political comedians. All the comedians out there that you see that are big and they get a lot of exposure now, they don't talk about politics. When I was a kid, that was, they talked politics, they made fun of politicians. George Carlin was constantly talking about that stuff, real social problems, things, trying to make light of certain things, but also at the same time bringing, shedding light on the subject. And, now the comedians are all talking about the Kardashians or whatever is pop culture-y, you know what I mean?
Or poop jokes or sex jokes.
Exactly. Stupid stuff. I mean, I know that stuff
socially irrelevant stuff.
Well, if they made a socially relevant joke, do you think anybody would get it? That's the other side of the coin.
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I'm to the point now. I mean, we've been looking at this pretty hard for the last few days, and we're just wondering what do you think is about to happen next? What's your opinion on all that you're seeing with this stuff?
If they don't back down, I think they'll go with it. I think, if now you see, if people stand up and more people get upset about this, if they go through with it, then it's obviously a criminal act. Then we have at least more public support behind, okay, finally, now can we impeach him, or now can we at least start to, finally maybe charge people criminally with things and arrest people and remove people from, their positions of power. I mean, that might be something that would come out of it, but I don't think anything positive really would come out of killing, people, because people are going to die if we send cruise missiles over there. We don't know who's going to die. They can say it's only Assad's people, it's only bad guys. But,
it's strategically tactical.
Well,
It's
since
surgically
most of
smart.
Assad's people, and in particular the ruling family, has physically left Syria, you can pretty much gather that it's going to be a lot of civilians.
Yeah, they got on that. There was that Russian boat that was sitting out there in the bay for like the longest time ever, and they all got on it on Monday and left. They're not even there. So how they're
Surprised
gonna,
they waited till Monday. But
how
all
they're
right.
gonna
Did you see Al
punish-
Jazeera America? They were reporting the other day, Assad has almost lost Syria to the rebel fighters, and I'm like, when I read reports from the on-the-ground stuff, that's not what I see. And in fact, if that were the case, they wouldn't need this air backup or cruise missiles or anything else, right? They wouldn't have to go do these false flag chemical attacks on citizens and kill innocent people to blame the Assad government in order to attack. And by the way, if people say, oh, well, why is Assad leaving? Wouldn't you be like, I'm going to go out here and wait until the insanity dies down? I mean, can you blame the guy, really? I mean, I'm not saying he's a saint or anything, but who are we to go in his
He's
backyard?
completely set up right now.
Yeah, he was being set up, and who are we to go in his backyard? And when people are like, well, we're America, but who gives us the moral authority? At who?
Any kind of authority.
Well, who came down and gave us, even if you put all that other, BS authority aside, who gave us the moral authority to come in and say, well, he needs to die because he's a bad guy and look, he's killing his people. But how do you know he's killing his people? But the government told me. Oh, the same government that told you about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
That government?
That same government. Those people? That same government?
They would
how about
never lie to you.
Well, how about the Iraq incubator babies from the first Gulf War? How about that lie? How about all the other numerous lies?
How about all the times that CNN's been caught with a green screen where they're like, reporters on the ground in Iraq, and there's bombs everywhere, like from the first Iraq invasion back in 91.
The CNN fake Gulf War footage is the best. They were shooting that on a studio in Georgia, and in fact, if you look, the backgrounds, because there's a whole clip of it. I have it up on a couple of the Federal Jack channels, but it's all over the place. And if you look and you actually see the full thing, not just the edited down ones, there's pieces where they're not in front of the stage. You see like the crew walking around. There's one guy walking around smoking a joint. I'm not bashing smoking cannabis or anything like that, but I mean, obviously they're not in the middle of a war zone. I mean, the guy's walking around smoking a joint, all happy-go-lucky. They were playing darts and other stuff. So it's like, dude, really? Really? You're in the middle of a war zone? And then my favorite clip is when they're putting on the gas mask and the helmet. And they're, oh my God, an incoming missile. And it's the worst acting.
It looks like a bad soap opera.
Looks like Laurel and Hardy from like the 70s when they did all those stage plays and stuff, and with the audience laughter.
It is well. That actually, I would have respected more because I think they probably put more effort into the Laurel stuff than they did in the CNN stuff.
It looks so bad. It looks like they went and got like a fake palm tree and just slapped it down on a blue piece of paper or something. They're like, "We're out here at the thing," and it's like, "What?"
And it's a newscaster
really
with his
bad.
late 80s, early 90s porn stash that he's got going on, and he's up there. And he's just, that guy hates that video footage. He's so mad. I researched it, because I had posted it, numerous times in different articles. And about a year and a half ago, I was like, I wonder whatever happened to this dude. I just got bored one night.
Oh, where'd he go?
I can't remember if he's still reporting. I think he's, I want to say in Canada. I have to go check. But he moved somewhere up north. But he's like totally pissed because this thing still haunts him because it gets thrown in his face constantly, and he hates it. He can't, he can't go somewhere without somebody busting his balls about it, and he really gets pissed.
During the Sandy Hook thing, there was that whole deal where Anderson Cooper was on a screen talking to a lady in front of supposedly the church there in town, but he was obviously a blue screen. His nose disappeared for like 2 seconds, like completely disappeared.
Oh, so. No, I saw that. Look, when all that stuff, when they were standing out in front of this memorial and stuff, I went on air that whole time and I said, and I was trying to draw this line because there was a lot of people. Sandy Hook was one of those experiences where the alternative media went off the rails, and rather than report on the alternative theories properly, they kind of got aggressive about it because they were upset, about the possible death of children, or then you have the people that were screaming that it was fake, and they were getting, equally upset about it because of all the anti-gun laws that were being pushed and everything. That was a big eye-opening experience to, like, people need to, like, put the brakes on and pay attention and start to read through stuff. And, I still see I see that with Syria too. I see people reporting, like, smart individuals that are awake and they understand what's going on. They understand the geopolitics of this whole thing, and they go, "How could Assad use chemical weapons against his own people?"
It's hard to even look at it as a 5-act Shakespeare play when I just sat through the doubleheader of Libya, and when it's bound in a book that I have a copy of called "Which Path to Persia"
from the Brookings Institute.
That's a metaphor, but that's a real publication. And it's a long-term geostrategical plan, not really even that long-term, only a couple decades. And it's clearly just another domino in that path. I just watched them set up 1,000 dominoes so they can do that really cool, like, tipping the dominoes and watching them fall over interesting barriers and the Mousetrap board game and everything.
Well, look at Wesley Clark. And he came out and said that this
is totally what they were going to do.
Yeah, 5 countries he listed, and it was Iraq, Syria, Iran, and I don't remember the other 2.
Was it Lebanon and the Sudan and Somalia?
Yeah.
That's
good. Sudan, Somalia, Lebanon, Libya, which we just witnessed, Syria, Iraq. Final one's Iran. Did I skip one?
I think you got it all. I think Iran is. Obviously that's their main.
Oh, and look, we're in Africa. How convenient.
All those countries are in general proximity.
But we're there for the people. It's for the children.
It's for the children.
We're spreading democracy. Can you pick one?
That's why we watched Darfur happen, and
we just saw
that's fine.
We saw a real interesting fake TV clip today. I'd like to know more context. I don't know the context, but clearly it looked like a real protest along the lines of maybe the Egyptian protest, until you see that there is no other side to the protest, and they strike a pose quite literally, and then photographers rush in, and it's people holding some kind of Arab Egyptian
Morsi signs about how they want Morsi.
Oh yeah, so I guess it was Egypt. Well, yeah. I'd like to know more context, but they were clearly staging a phony protest.
But then they showed an interview.
They get caught doing that stuff all the time. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. More mind-blowing conversation in just a few short minutes. I think if they've ever had the urge to go into Syria, this is going to be the push for it, this false flag event. And as I said earlier, that all of us here in the alternative media, I know Aaron and Melissa have been screaming from the tops of their lungs as long as they possibly could. I know Joe has. I know I have been. I know Change the Channel. I know everybody here on Unbound and all the other great individuals and voices out there in the alternative media doing their thing every day for at least a year have been screaming that if this supposed chemical attack happens, it will be a false flag type event. So I want to go back in time for a second. I'm going to play you guys a little clip. Back in May, Turkey found sarin gas in the home of suspected Syrian Islamists. Now, I bet you many people don't know about this. Most people don't. Most people haven't heard of this. I'm gonna play this clip. But, of course, I had to go to another country's media. I had to go to Russia Today to find out about this, because the American media won't tell you this. But let's listen to this clip and tell me that there isn't evidence here that shows that it wasn't Assad's government that attacked the civilians.
Turkish police have reportedly detained several members of the Al-Nusra Front, a jihadist group that's fighting among the Syrian rebels against the Assad government. The men were apparently on their way to the Syrian border, transporting a cylinder of sarin nerve gas. Live to RT's Middle East correspondent Now Post here for more on this. Paul, what more can you tell us about these arrests, and specifically how do they tie in with Western concerns of over the use of chemical weapons in Syria?
Well, Turkish special anti-terror forces have detained 12 people. That's what we know. They are suspected of having links with the Al-Nusra Front, which is the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Syrian rebel group aimed at toppling the Syrian President Bashar Assad. Now, the group was seized in southern Turkey, and that is according to local media reports. The media also saying that they carried a 2-kilogram cylinder with the nerve agent sarin. Now, Turkish authorities haven't yet commented on this report, and we are waiting to hear from them. Britain, the United States and France in the past have said that they believe it is Assad, however, that is using chemical weapons, but they haven't been able to produce any kind of evidence to prove this. The British government has written to the United Nations Ban Ki-moon alleging 3 new incidents of chemical use by Assad's forces, and at the same time the French government says that it is testing samples that were smuggled out by journalists. But all of this is hearsay at the moment, whereas on the other hand, we have, and here what we're seeing is fighters from the Al-Nusra Front allied with the Syrian rebels caught with the sarin nerve agent gas. It is important also to point out and remind our viewers that the United Nations in the past launched an independent investigation, and that did conclude that there are signs that the rebels have been using this sarin nerve agent. Now, Damascus is supportive of an investigation, but not one that will lead to an Iraqi type of scenario. The use of chemical weapons is banned under international law, and there are concerns that any kind of suggestions or any kind of proof of their use will trigger international intervention.
Well, Paula, what is the attitude among rebels towards the international peace efforts to resolve the crisis in Syria?
The Syrian National Coalition has said that it will not take part in US-Russia-sponsored talks that are scheduled to take place in Geneva next month. The condition that they have for participating is that Iran and Hezbollah renounce all involvement in the Syrian conflict, and only if they do they say that they will attend those talks. This statement does follow the Syrian army's advances in the central part of the country. But with the European Union's arms embargo now lifted, some think that the rebels may try to gain the upper hand on the ground. Now, all of this is happening while the first batch of Russian anti-aircraft missiles arrives in Syria. Now, that's according to the Syrian President Bashar Assad. He announced it while speaking on a Hezbollah television network. Moscow has said that it will continue to supply air defense missiles, calling it a balance designed to deter foreign intervention in Syria. The US, of course, is against the sale, and Israel has said that it will act to, quote the Israeli defense minister, to prevent the S-300 missiles from becoming operational on Syrian soil. The minister saying that if the missiles reach Syria, Israel, to quote him, will know what to do.
Yeah, and they did, from what I understand, they did attack that, because this is back in May, they did attack those ships, if you remember. There was explosions on board. But what are they going to do? Say if Russia starts bringing in massive amounts of weapons to Syria right now, is Israel going to start strategically striking Russian targets? That'll just piss off the Russians, and then, okay, have fun defending Israel from Russia, because I'll have no part of that, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, break sneaking up. We're going to break. Stay tuned. All we need to do is bomb the wrong thing. And, I mean, one cruise missile, you put your foot in the door, it's already in. I mean, people don't understand. You can't just lob cruise missiles into a country and then, oh, okay, that's it. We're all good. No, because that changes the dynamic. And now, as soon as you've changed that dynamic, you've lobbed those missiles. You can't take that back. You only have about 10 seconds before it hits the target to void it out. And in the last 10 seconds, you're screwed. There is none.
It's like that scene with the standoff, and everyone's got the gun out, and then someone gets an itchy trigger finger. I mean, it's...
Well, yeah, and everybody's standing there looking. Everybody's waiting, and all of a sudden somebody freaks, and the first person shoots, and that's it. Everybody in the room, bam, 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 bam. Everybody drops because everybody gets hit. That's what's going to happen. Like Reservoir Dogs, like the scene where they're all sitting there and they're all standing there like it's the same thing. Mexican standoff, and Harvey Keitel and everybody else in the room gets shot because he kills the cop that they had held hostage, and then he finds out that his partner with him was a cop. Yeah, that's what's going to happen to us. Everybody is going to get shot in the Mexican standoff. That's what's going to happen.
But hey, Kim Kardashian might be pregnant.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that I'm glad that 9% of the people are for this, and the other 91% are like.
Who are those 9%? They have to all work for Boeing and General
they work
Electric.
for Boeing, General Electric, Raytheon, the government,
Lockheed Martin, DynCorp. I'm just going to start naming stuff. Gunthrop, Northman.
I think
Northman Northrop Grumman.
DynCorp should change their name to child rapists. I mean, that's what they are, amongst other things. But I think appropriately they should just change the title of their company to child rapists. I mean, they got caught. It's on record that they brought kids over to Afghanistan for the use of child sex slaves for the Afghan police. That's just absolutely disgusting.
Ew.
You can go look it up. I know people don't want to look that stuff up. They'd rather look up, fluffy kitties on YouTube and stuff like that. But this is the reality of the situation. These sick bastards are the ones pushing us to war. You brought up something interesting. You said that when you were talking to Catherine Austin Fitz, she also told you today that the powers that shouldn't be, a lot of these scumbags have all their bets hedged for that we go into Syria and that we bomb the hell out of it, just like we did Libya and everything else. And if we don't, they lose a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't go into a great deal of detail because we were on other subjects, but she said the books show that their assets are placed in a position that means launch. So they're in favor.
I mean,
clearly.
I guess it's down to the question of, all this stuff is going on. All these countries have now postured themselves on the board. They've said, this is my position, this is where I stand. And so you've got, the makings of World War III going hot. You've got that all played out right now and just paused. And I guess the question is, we've come this far with this plan that they've obviously been pushing for a long time. And now Obama's come out and said all this stuff. He did, I guess at some point today he came out and said, I haven't really made a decision yet. But they've said all this other stuff about how it's Thursday, they're going to do it. It's unequivocal, it's undeniable. We have concluded that they used the weapons. We're going to blame it on Assad, whether or not he even ordered the strike. And so what are the odds that Obama's going to take his ball and go home on this one? His whole goal in life seems to be to cause America to implode. So,
yeah, it makes you wonder. But look at the UK now. Apparently, they had some sort of faux vote on it, but apparently, now Cameron is talking like he's not so hard-lined about it. Now he's kind of ramping his rhetoric back, but that doesn't mean that they won't do it anyway. Honestly, I think that their first reaction to this stuff shows their true intentions. It's like when one of these events goes off, and I tell people, you can tell whether or not it's a real event or not. There's different ways you can, but I think one of the ways you can tell is by focusing on how they react to it. And if within the first 5 minutes they're like, like in the case of a shooting, gun control, it's like, and they start whipping out talking points right away, without even worrying about the welfare of the people involved in the event, then, that's an issue. Same thing here. The supposed chemical weapons attack, I think it's funny because Obama, wasn't it on the 20th or the 21st? He came on and made a comment about the chemical weapons. Yes, that's a red line. And then like a week later this happens, and it just so happens that to take place right by where the UN's weapons inspectors are already, that were invited into the country, I may add, by Assad.
Because, when I'm about to go do something really horrible, I invite the inspectors in right beforehand.
Now, I don't always bomb my people with sarin gas. But when I do, I make sure that UN's weapons inspectors are right down the street. This is the same guy, by the way, that banned GMOs from his country because he doesn't want his citizens eating GMO food. Oh, he's Assad the dictator. We need to take him out. Yeah, such a prick. He doesn't want his people eating GMO foods. I mean,
remember Elder Bush? Don't you burn them oil fields. Don't you do it, Saddam. Don't you burn them oil fields. We're coming for you.
Saddam.
100 points.
Yeah, I mean, their first intention, it is very telling. This is how I understood 9/11 the day of, without any particular political knowledge, when they began to run bin Laden's face over the towers coming down and started floating his name within only a matter of minutes
like
or
hour?
hours.
It was like an hour.
I had seen some of the reports kind of haphazardly during the summer building up bin Laden as an enemy, and then it already looked strange to me the way things were playing out that day. And once they started floating his name, I mean, I had a sinking feeling that never went away, like, oh my God, they did this. Like, this was a phony thing. You know, I understood this intuitively because of that. And then later I met the facts and it was confirmed, but.
Well, they sold us Bin Laden as the bad guy, the 19 hijacker story. They're the ones that told us. Same thing with Iraq. Who sold us the invasion of Iraq? The government wanted to do it. You know what I mean? People in the government wanted to do it. You know, the Bush regime wanted to do it, but who sold it to us? It was the media. You know, who played the idea over and over again of what was that clip that they used? The smoking mushroom cloud. You know, oh my God, 9/11, smoking mushroom cloud. We need to go in. I mean, I remember I was in the military at the time, and to a certain degree, I mean, I didn't agree with it, and I didn't buy into some of it. I thought was crap, and I even remember saying to my mother, we had a conversation one day, and I said, you know, we're more like bullies than we are, you know, going in and protecting anybody. I was like, and there's a lot of people that didn't understand how Iraq correlated into the attacks of 9/11 when there was no evidence linking them together whatsoever.
It's that fuzzy math.
They tried.
Fuzzy math again.
They tried. They tried with their fuzzy math there, George. They certainly did, but I mean, it's insane. It really is. Do people not pay attention to history? Do people not see this stuff? I mean,
no.
You know, I know it's a rhetorical question. It's not really a real one. I know.
It just makes us sad. That's all. Even though
it's frustrating.
Even though history's surprisingly interesting. I mean, really.
Well, you know, like I said, you know, in the beginning of the show, that all day today I wasn't able to get and keep an eye on the news because I've been kind of busy and running around taking care of, you know, regular life stuff. And when I got home, I was trying to go through all the news on the, you know, about Syria and everything. And the only thing I found was basically, there was still a couple things about Miley Cyrus here, but that garbage has finally started to filter out.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. Mostly it was about why we should bomb Syria and like the different ways we could do it. Like I said, CNN has already laid out all the different ways they've had on all these different generals. I'm like, wow, I feel like it's 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Except 10 years ago, it was only Fox News that laid it out like that. CNN jumped on the bandwagon later on, you know, with this is how we could do it. But, you know, CNN was actually the first ones to the door this time with that. I mean, literally, I expected to find, and I don't turn on CNN, I go to certain places that people have their clips. But even if you go to CNN's YouTube channel, you look, and I expected, you know, to see a certain level of propaganda. You know what I mean? But it's just so in your face. There's not even a semblance of journalistic integrity anymore.
It's completely gone. Like the veil has completely been lifted at this point.
They're just like, you know,
all the journalists who had any integrity who've been invited onto the TV circuit have died in mysterious car crashes. So,
you know that meme
fled the country
on Facebook where the guy's flipping his desk and he says "F this," you know. It's Friday, and he's throwing the paperwork in the air, and he's flipping the desk over or whatever. That's basically what they did in their writing room. They were like, "This is we're just gonna who cares? Throw caution to the wind. Screw it. We don't care anymore." They're not even attempting. I mean, they don't even attempt to write scripts. It's not. I'm surprised they don't come out and blatantly just laugh in our faces and be like, we expect you to believe this stuff, ha ha ha, and just lose it. Because I couldn't report that crap with a straight face. Although sometimes they do chuckle. Maybe that's why they have Giggles Anderson Cooper deliver the news. I can't stand him.
He's my favorite when his nose disappears.
Well, that's what happens when it's a bad what do they call that? Chrome key or chroma key or whatever with the green screen. It's called Don't let the
I have a question
don't
for
let
you.
the intern handle your stuff when you're doing a live feed and trying to catch the emotions of the American public.
Well, I have a question for you. Do you think that this is? What do you think this is? Why is this happening now of all times? Do you think it's just this was the next one and this was the time they planned for it, right around like the 9/11 holiday, that they like to have every year? Do you think it's because they're about to hit this debt ceiling BS that they make up and they're all freaked out because they know there's just no money? Is it in combination with a Fukushima boiling the oceans right now? I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. Or is it just all about, encircling Russia completely and taking over that whole oil circuit over there and basically just completely, are they the ultimate target? And so Iran is really just a gateway to that?
I think it's all of the above. But I think the timing of it has probably a lot to do with the fact that Congress is not in session right now and nobody's there. Like you guys said earlier.
Even if you're not there and you're on break, though, why are they? You would think one person would make a comment. Really, they're all on break and they're just going to put their fingers in their ears like children and go la 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 la. I can't hear you. Third World War. Blah blah blah. Like, come on, that's ridiculous.
Well, who's to say that some of them in the certain positions of power didn't already know, and that's just what they call plausible deniability. Yeah. That's
here's
what
a great comment.
How is that even? That is the worst plausible deniability ever, though. Oh, I'm sorry, I was on vacation.
We couldn't get back. Whatever.
I was in a bomb shelter on vacation, mind you, out in the middle of nowhere.
Melissa, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Wholeheartedly, I agree. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, just a great comment I saw. Not to interrupt the conversation. John Kerry, Secretary of State, says he has indisputable proof. Indisputable. Well, let's see the evidence. Why don't we see the proof? Well, it's on that evidence locker with the Back to the Future DeLorean and stuck in the 1800s with the WMD evidence and the yellow cake. And come on. Well, indisputable, absolutely indisputable proof. Such severe proof. Don't ask me to show my cards.
He's got bountiful evidence. Okay?
Bountiful evidence.
It's indisputable the amount of bountiful evidence that he's got. The only problem is it's marked top secret, so only him and his friends and the NSA and the military can see it. But
the guy with Photoshop that made it.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, trust them. Trust them.
It's in that top secret folder wherever they have it, and
it's where they put the Ark of the Covenant.
Sticky note with an eye.
It's in that warehouse that you see at the end of Indiana Jones, where they're wheeling the Ark of the Covenant away, and there's just tons of crap. That's where JFK, all that stuff, or the files, anything that's ever been hidden, or quote unquote redacted or whatever. Yeah, everything is hidden there.
What's super creepy right now is that we just have a majority of the populace completely asleep. They're walking around in a stupor. They're like, Miley Cyrus, whatever. They don't care. And then you've got the other side of that, people who are completely flipping out right now and talking about how in a few days we won't be talking to each other on the internet anymore. Everything's going to go. They're going to EMP us all. When the lights go off, it won't be coming back on. That kind of talk.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. When you get old in life, things get taken from you. That's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's the team. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. Ideas are bulletproof.
I thought I would play that for you, ladies and gentlemen, and for Aaron and Melissa, because they've never gotten a chance to hear it. But as you all know, that's my old intro. I call it Inches. And since we've been talking about a lot of negative stuff tonight, I wanted to put out a little bit of positivity in the last few minutes because, I mean, I don't think that the end of the world is going to come down in the next few days. I mean, yes, World War III is possible, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden the world is just going to go boop and be gone. And I still believe that there is a possibility that we could avert this. People are supposedly this weekend going to be doing a lot of anti-war protests. Let's actually see if that actually happens. Maybe if people actually get up off their laurels and we show them that we're not asleep and we're not just going to sit back and take it, maybe people will actually do something. But I wanted to play that way. It gives people a little bit of, courage, inspires them a little bit. I also like to read the Litany of Fear from time to time, too. You ever read that, Melissa? It's called the Litany Against Fear, it's called.
It sounds familiar.
It's
been a long day, too.
I'll shoot it to you after the show. It's something good. It's a good little thing to recite to yourself. I often recite it on air for the listeners. It's good to to have a little bit of positivity. I mean, we can get through this. We can stop it. I'm not in the ballpark. Like, I'm not in the camp like you said. Oh my God! The end of the world. The internet's going to be gone in 2 days. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to scare the crap out of people because I think that's just going to feed into the fear vibe that they need to control us, which could lead us to war, right?
True.
So.
Yeah, we went on the air talking about all this stuff, and Aaron even said we're not trying to scare people. I mean, but we have to try and break it down, and to talk about it so that we can figure it out, and hopefully people do go out and say something. I would really hope so. I mean, this is a dark hour. It's pretty ridiculous, and the television is not going to save everybody. Real life is being lived. It's outside of your house, and people just need to go out there and find it again because, otherwise, what do we got left? A country full of zombies being led to slaughter. I mean, it's horrible.
Lemmings. The zombie apocalypse is upon us. It's not going to come. They could probably do a real zombie apocalypse, but technically the zombie apocalypse is upon us. It really is. And with that, we are out of time again. Every time you guys come on, it's like I blink, poof, 2 hours goes by.
We talk a lot. Well, thanks for the hopeful clip, though. I really appreciate it. I bet the listeners did, too.
Well,
it's crawling out of hell. It's a lot like Dante's Inferno, the Rosicrucian thing.
Yes. It's good.
Ever read that one?
And you wonder why your reverse speech is poetry. I don't, Mr. Philosopher. All right, I have to cut us off. I like busting Aaron's chops. I have to cut us off. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune into these two. They do an epic broadcast. With that, we are out of here. Love you all. Catch you all again tomorrow night.